Hello, psychology enthusiasts. Let's jump right in to explore the wonders of the human mind, shall we? Have you ever heard a sound so familiar that it instantly triggered something in your brain? Like the jingle of keys making you rush out the door, or the ring of the oven timer signaling pizza time. But what if I told you that over 100 years ago, a famous scientist used something as simple as a bell to make dogs drool? Well, get ready to dive into one of the most fascinating psychological experiments ever. Pavlov's dog experiment. Our story takes place in 1897 with a Russian scientist named Ivan Pavlov. Now, Pavlov was a pretty serious guy, spending most of his time researching digestion in animals. His goal? To figure out how the body breaks down food. But what he stumbled upon was much bigger than digestion. It was something that would completely change the way we understand behavior, and it all started with dogs. Pavlov noticed that whenever his lab assistant brought food to the dogs, they would start drooling, before even seeing the food. It's like their bodies knew food was coming. So Pavlov wondered, what if I could make the dogs drool, even if there was no food around? Sounds like a pretty crazy idea, right? So, Pavlov came up with an experiment. Every time the dogs were fed, he rang a bell first, then food. And as expected, the dogs started drooling at the sight of the food. Pavlov then took it a step further. He started ringing the bell without giving the dogs any food. What happened next? The dogs drooled. That's right, just the sound of the bell alone was enough to make the dogs' mouths water. Pavlov had essentially trained them to associate the sound of the bell with mealtime. This process became known as classical conditioning, and it's the foundation for much of modern psychology. You see, the dogs' brains had connected two unrelated things, a sound and food, and reacted to the sound as if food was coming. Now, imagine if every time you heard your favorite song, you suddenly got hungry. Sounds ridiculous, right? But it's kind of like how Pavlov's dogs learned to react to the bell. This happens to us too, all the time. Why do we need popcorn at the movies or crave snacks while watching Netflix? And why does Domino's give away millions of seasoning packets for free? It's all about creating powerful associations that keep us coming back for more. Pavlov's experiment wasn't just about dogs. It revealed a deep truth about how our brains learn and connect things in ways we don't even realize. Over time, we've been conditioned to associate unrelated things, shaping our responses in everyday life. Over time, Pavlov also discovered that the dogs could unlearn this response. If he rang the bell again and again without food, the dogs eventually stopped drooling. This is called extinction. So, our brains are not just conditioned by patterns. We can also reverse them. This experiment was a window into how much our behavior could be influenced, without us even knowing it. Think about it, advertisers, teachers, parents. Anyone who needs to shape behavior could use conditioning. In fact, we've been conditioned by things like school bells, alarms, even the sound of your phone pinging. Now, here's something about Pavlov's experiment that's often left out. Did you know it wasn't originally designed to study psychology at all? Pavlov was just trying to understand how saliva helps digestion. But when he noticed the dog's behavior, he pivoted to something much bigger, completely by accident. Sometimes, the greatest discoveries don't come from what you're looking for, but from what you observe along the way. Pavlov didn't set out to change psychology, but he did. This groundbreaking experiment is usually taught early on in psychology degrees, often in the Learning Theories chapter of introductory courses. So, if you're diving into psychology, you'll meet Pavlov and his dogs pretty soon. And next time you hear a bell, or get a craving out of nowhere, remember, you might just be responding to some hidden connection your brain made.